Alright, so this is a game on Malinovka in the Tier 10 German medium, the Leopard 1. Good gun, not very much armor. And so when you look at this type of composition that we have on our team, we have a relatively fast team, so ideally you want to be able to control this hill area. The current PUBG meta is to try to defend this K3 area. I don't really think that's really effective and or necessary. I think it's usually better to win this east side of the map and have that level of map control because it's really easy to cover the cap from there. The tanks that they have that are relatively quick are this STB-1 and the 1390. So I'm going to start heading out this way, and as I do, I'll check out what our dispersion looks like. And so when you look at our dispersion, most of our mediums are headed down into this area, which is essentially means that they're probably going to camp for a while. We do get some of our heavy tanks coming up this way, so hopefully they'll push up over here. See, the Batchat and our T-71s are going over here. This is a good sign. That usually means that somebody's going to scout. The Batchat takes this waterway. Since they changed this map, it's actually more effective to go up top here. It's easy to get picked off as you cross the water there, especially if they put anybody in the swamp here. And then our T-71s are a little bit further back than you would like, but that's fine. The Batchat's far enough up that he'll be able to get spots, and depending on how he plays this position, he'll be able to spot anything that's going up the hill. And let's see how our mediums are camping down here, despite no contact. That's not what you want to see out of your mediums. You know, one single heavy could have done that exact same thing. So our Batchat needs some cover, cover fire that a T-71 is just not going to provide. We've lit their STB-1 and their 1390 though, so I know that there's not anything that can possibly be coming up the hill. So I can just sit here and wait for the Batchat to spot things and then shoot them. So this position here in that D6 has good synergy with the hill, because he can basically light things and I can shoot them. That was not a very good shot on the STI in terms of the angle. I had maybe a little bit of side to it, but I want to shoot him so that he doesn't, you know, even if I don't do damage, I want to shoot damage him. Well, I mean, I want to shoot at him so that he knows that, hey, maybe I shouldn't go this way. A lot of times that'll freak puppies out and they'll just stop. Which should give me time to shoot at these things at the Batchat lights. And then see, these guys over here, they're trying to snipe this guy from over here. All they have to do, all these heavies have to do is just drive up here and they'll get fantastic shots on these guys. But instead they're sitting a little bit too far back, and it's a little bit more difficult because they have to shoot at, you know, basically less of the tank. They're shooting at smaller profile targets. And the STB is going in, and our Batchat's being covered by our T-71s because the ISU got waffled. Which of course means the Batchat is no longer spotting, which means that the FE is gonna YOLO in on him, and that's not gonna be good. Let me see the STI now. Now the STI is continuing to come up here. So it took him a while to get there, but he did, so I can back off a little bit and just get behind this windmill. And so we have our tanks finally moving up here, so I'm not going to bother trying to fight against an STI face on. So we've got our heavies up here, sort of, almost already. So I'm going to go back down, because essentially what this Batchat really needed was any fire support at all from any of these guys. All they had to do was shift over and they could have helped that Batchat out. But instead, basically that Batchat was being covered by two T-71s, which is not the supporting fire that you're looking for if you're that guy. But he's left a huge gap in their defense right here, right? And so this is the way that I think that you should approach that. And that's basically to come along this ridge over here. And you'll see that in most configurations, particularly in the starting configurations, if you don't get spotted crossing right here, which is there's like a little gap in this, like if you look over to my left right now, there's a gap there as you cross into this area. If you don't get spotted there, then you won't get spotted normally, depending on how things move, as you go through here until you start to get into the dip. And then by then, it's, you know, it's too late. There's nothing that can shoot you. Well, you know, they can take snapshots certainly. So we know that there's an STI on the hill. We know that this E3 is somewhere in this area. We don't really know where a lot of their tanks are still. These guys down here are still being really passive. They're basically, you know, we had a lot of our tanks held in place by a 1390 who's camping in H1, which is a completely useless place for them. And so all that I'm trying to do here is essentially what the bat chat did. So now what these guys need to do is they need to just stop right there and just let us spot, you know, let us find these guys. And like what this T-71 needs to do is not stop. I see this happen so often. I don't quite understand why fast light tanks stop. It's mind-boggling. But he just stopped there, and so it was very easy for him to be killed. So we know where the E3 is. We know where this E4 is. I thought this E4 might back up because the 50B YOLO'd into his face for some reason. He YOLO'd into him, clipped out, but didn't kill him, which is not what you want to do as a 50B. And so we're getting a better idea of what's in their base now because these guys are firing at our guys who are YOLOing a little bit. Unfortunately, these guys push off the hill. Instead of just sitting back here and shooting at the things that we light, they basically YOLO'd in and died. Which is unfortunate again because like this D6 area has great synergy with like this A9, B9 area because you can get a lot of good shots from that if those two sides work together. So now what we have is that all those guys traded on the hill and they didn't. All those guys died on the hill and they didn't really trade for even one tank. So I know the E3 is still here. I know that the E4 is still over there in some position. The Centurion isn't really in a position to give any supporting fire either. He really needs to go up onto the hill to be more effective at this point. And so I'm just looking to try to get a little bit of free damage here because we're a little bit behind the 8-ball. We've got map control, but we don't really have very good positioning otherwise. And that E4 lit me. So I have to slide down. And again, with the Leo 1, because the armor is really light, you really don't want to get hit by artillery, so you tend to have to be really careful, especially if you play a more forward position, to not get hit by artillery, because a lot of them will pen you for full. And so all I'm really trying to do is light this guy. We still have 2 artillery, we still have map control, we still have guys pushing across down here. Go figure. And the Centurion 1 is able to sort of pick him off, which is fine. And then this, again, the Centurion 1, 7-1, all he really needs to do is go up here, and then he can help me out a lot with the E3. I'm still trying to figure out if they're going to move anyone down to this rock, and I don't think they do, at least not immediately. And so I'm still trying to decide what I want to do here, but I do know that I need to get some sort of lights at some point, so I'm going to have to start poking up again. And I am being really careful because I don't want to get artillery, so I want to start moving back even before Sixth Sense goes off. So I'll poke up and then fall back and then poke up and then fall back, and then, you know, as long as I don't get lit, I'll poke up a little bit further every time and just try to pick up more tanks. And there's still 7 minutes in the game. You're down, you know, 10s, you're down health. You just want to be conservative in terms of lighting things, and you want your team to be a little bit more patient than they are, because they kind of don't. You don't want them to YOLO in just to find something if they don't have fire support. Like that's where that Centurion 7-1 went. He didn't really have fire support, so it's good that, you know, in a sense we know that the E3 moved back, but since we don't really know anything else, it doesn't really help us out that much. And it certainly wasn't worth him dying. And with 50B is going down that other side, but I want to be able to kill this Waffle because I think he's going to kill our PCA. And the AMX is able to kill both of our dudes, which is unfortunate. So he has 479 health, which means that I'm not going to be able to one-shot him. But I do need to press that. So the E3 I know moved back to A4, so it's going to take him a while to close that gap between me and the 5100. I figured that their artillery is going to be aiming in this direction, but I need to push the 5100 and take him out ASAP. You know, even if he gets 2 shots on me, that's fine. He may or may not be reloading, right? So it probably took him at least 4 shots to kill both of the artillery. So I see a tree fall down in front of me, so I know where he's at, and so I decide to miss. I give him a warning shot, you know, because you got to give him a fighting chance. And then, so what I'm looking for here is a ram, because I can shoot him once and then ram him, and that will close the gap between the amount of damage that I have to do. And so I don't have to sit out there and shoot him. And then both artillery fire, so that makes it easy. So now at this point, I don't really know where the E3 is. So what I want to do is I'm thinking that I'll go across through the field side, because it might take him a while to reposition from A4. But that would, you know, keep in mind that was like a minute to 2 minutes ago. And so I start to shift over here, and then I think about it, and I'm like, you know what, I can outspot an E4, so I'll go back to the side, and I'll just creep up this way, because I got 4 minutes. And then I see that he's moving across here, so this is an interesting cue. So I'm not worried about him right now. He is in a position where he can't really spot me, so all I have to do now is just drive across the field, and he won't be able to catch up to me. So I know where he is. And then I'll run into the RD over here, and that's fine. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get out of draw of the E3. There's a little dip here that you can go in, but basically what I want to do is I want to move the draw box, which is this red box, outside of where the E3 can possibly shoot me. And so basically, I know that the E3 is probably driving back now, but he's not going to be back in time to intercept me for getting into the GW Tiger, which I presume is going to be, you know, somewhere in this area. But he will have shots on me down here, so I have to figure out how to minimize my profile. And there's a lot of different ways that you can play it, but like I know that the GW Tiger is going to be watching this way, because, you know, I have a limited amount of time before the E3 gets back. And so one of the options is that, so there's little hills here, like on this lake. So if the GW Tiger is over here, then I can kill him and hide behind the hill. If he's on the other side, then I can hide in the hill by the lake here. But I basically have to just drive through here and see if I can pick him up. So the GW Tiger misses, and the E3 hits me. So I know that the E3 fired. So I'm not too worried. You know, he's got another probably 5 to 10 seconds on his reload. So all I got to do is just move over the other side, and I'll probably drop spot before he's reloaded. So I know that he's in this area around here someplace. So I just want to take an approach right now. I have a minute and 40 seconds, so I just want to take an approach where I can see if I can narrow down where he's at. And then I want to try to avoid actually entering the cap. I can't out-cap them. Even if I got in before, you know, 100 seconds, I wouldn't be able to out-cap him, because it would be really easy for him to just drive up here and shoot me. So what I want to do is I just want to keep creeping forward using these bushes. If I get lit, I can hide behind this rock, sort of thing. And so I see that he's headed to the left, and so I start to come out here because I think that I can use this bush for cover, but I think he lights me going to that bush, which is unfortunate. So I still have a minute left. It's going to take me at least 2 shots to kill the E3. So the math that I have to do in my head is, you know, I want to start attacking him by 20 seconds left in the game, because that's going to give me enough time to kill him. And so what I want to do is I want to reposition myself to minimize the distance between us. I don't care that he knows where I'm at. You know, I pretty much assume that he knows that I'm going to be coming from one of these directions. And so I'm just going to eat the hit and make sure that I get in. And then you just want to be patient, make sure that you take a good shot, right? And so I made my 20-second mark, right? The first shot of damage that I hit him with was at 23 seconds. And then the second one, you know, was at 16. So I still had a margin of error there where I had like 1 or 2 shots left. If there was less time, I would have charged him straight from where I was over by the cap. So you kind of have to make that deduction about how much time you have versus you know, how much health he has. And especially if you know that you can take a hit from a non-turreted tank destroyer, you have to bully him. You can't allow him, you can't peek and poke and allow him to have that advantage. You have to bully him and use your advantage, which is the fact that you can eat a shell and get around to his side and win the game that way. But so I think a lot of that is understanding positioning. I think our team did a pretty poor job of playing that strategically. I think we wasted way too much time with too many high tier mediums down here. If that bat chat had any help at all, that bat chat could have totally won the game for us. If our heavies had come up a little bit higher on the hill, it would have been a lot easier for them to damage that 215B sort of thing. If the heavies had stayed on the hill and allowed us down here to light for them, they could have done a lot more damage from where they were at as well. Instead, they charged down and they created basically a gap up here where we didn't have anything, right? And the Centurion 7-1 didn't go up there, and so that allowed that 5100 eventually to get into through the backfield into our artillery, which could have potentially cost us as well. And so there's a lot of bad decisions there, just because mostly because they don't really understand the consequences of what they're doing. But that's one of the things that you should keep an eye on. And it goes the same thing for this sort of northwest spawn. If you get guys down here into this E7 area, it synergizes really well with the guys on the hill. These guys down here can light this area and you can get shots. You kind of have to avoid that rock. That's usually where they hide, but depending on how you reposition, like you can also, if you have field control, you can move an artillery down here and you can hit the backside of that rock really easily, sort of thing. So a lot of the way that you play this map in particular, because it is really open in a sense, is about positioning and about figuring out, hey, if that guy lights something, can I shoot it? And also, you know, the vice versa, which is if I light something, you know, can that guy get shots? Oh man, the Firefox is not working now. Hang on. Oh, there we go. And then, so if we look at the stats, again, it's one of those things where I feel like if you move around, if you're mobile and you try to keep your gun active in fast mediums, that you're gonna do well. We didn't make the most of our shots up on the hill, but in general we were pretty efficient with our shooting, and so that basically allowed us to do 6k damage. We did 3k assist damage, mostly in that mid to late game, because after all of our guys sort of YOLO'd and died, we had to do a lot of that lighting there. But so in that sense, it was really an effective game. But if you look at our team in general, like, we didn't really perform that well for the most part. I mean, I think the artillery did an okay job. The 53, 55, you know, and basically our artillery combined for like 5k damage, which on Malinovka, it's not bad for you know, the 12 to 13 minutes that they were in the game. But yeah, I mean, given the fact that I feel like we had a lot of lights, like I feel like this bat chat did a lot more than he was rewarded for. He was one of the first guys to die, right? He only took 7 shots, but when you look at you know, he was the second highest experienced guy on the team, and he was probably the key to us winning, you know, I'm putting air quotes, winning that early game. Whereas, you know, our other mediums, more or less, they didn't lose it for us, but they did not help him at all, and that's always unfortunate. Anyways, I hope this gives you a better idea of sort of how to play, or how I would play Malinovka in certain situations, and also how you sort of can use these slow non-turreted tank destroyers to your advantage, right? Like when I see that he's out of position on one side, it's very easy for me to relocate to the other side. And so you utilize your speed versus, you know, their lack thereof. Anyhow, hope that was helpful, and thanks for watching.